Get ready for Sonia, Teresa, Vanessa, Bettina. Come on. Say what? Come on. Say what? We got bam, hot topics. We got what the fudge. So bring it home. Say what? Bring it home. Say what? You got questions. We got the answers. You wanna chit? You wanna chat? You wanna talk about this and talk about that? You're in the right place to hear the facts. Bring it home. Say what? Bring it on. Say what? The ladies are bringing the conversation. So join us on Say What across the nation. Bring it on, y'all. Say what? Come on. Say what? Bring it on. Say what? Come on. Say what? Bring it on. Say what? Come on. Say what? Bring it on, y'all. Say what? Come on. Say what? Bring it on. Say what?
Say what? Hey y'all, how are y'all doing? It's a beautiful Saturday morning, afternoon on Saturday in September. In this fall, we are happy to have you with us today. What's up, Miss Vanessa? How are you?
Say what? How you
Say what?
doing?
You know I can't end it till I get that last part. I gotta get the last part in there. How you doing, Miss Vanessa?
I'm just wonderful, wonderful. We've been gone for a minute, but we are back and it
We
feels good.
We've been gone, but we ain't been gone. We had some previous shows going on, but new season, new stuff. Even though we down with Miss Bettina and Sonya, they will be
Yes,
back with us next show.
yes,
But y'all know
yes,
we got some word for you. We got some conversation for you.
yes.
Clearly, we had some music for you. So y'all know how we do this. We cannot go any further without the word of God. So I am going to be the junior. I'm three juniors down, Bishop. And we're going to bring the word today. So today's word, the scripture is Numbers 11:16 through 17. And I'm going to read it from the Amplified Version. And I'm going to give you a little background on this. So, of course, the book of Numbers is when the children of Israel are in the wilderness and they are doing their norm, which is complaining. And they're complaining, we hungry, we want some meat, we want some stuff. And Moses, their leader, is a little frustrated. So we're going to zoom in on his conversation. He talks to the Lord and he says, what am I going to do about all these people? They're threatening to kill me. They're complaining, they're hot, they disgusted. What am I going to do? Here is God's response. God says to Moses, gather together 70 men from among the leaders of Israel, men who you know are responsible and respected. Take them to the tent of meeting, and I'll meet you there. He said, I'll come down and I'll speak with you, and I'm going to take some of the spirit that is put on you and place it on them. They will then be able to bear some of this load with you, and you won't have to carry it alone anymore. Thus says the word of God. So, again, the background is Moses is frustrated with these people. Now, these are not 5 or 10 people. This is a significant amount of people, totaling probably close to 1 million people. Okay? And he's the only leader, and he's overwhelmed, and he's tired. And of course, we're in a desert, it's hot, and he's at his wit's end. So he goes to God and he says, hey, listen, this is getting to be too much and something needs to be done. So God says to him, I want you to go find 70 leaders that are respected and people you know could handle the burden. So that's what he did. He got 70 men. God took the spirit that was on him and gave some of it to the other 70. Now they can help him and he doesn't carry the burden alone. Vanessa, what do you think about this scripture?
I think it's a significant, the number 70, seven, that's significant. That
Yeah.
jumps out at me, seven.
Yep. Yep.
And just the fact that God told him to go find them is just telling him, you're not alone. I'm here. I'll help you bear this as well. And he was helping him bear that by telling him to go find additional help. So God's there. God it was, it's in a sense, God saying, I got you. You don't have to bear this alone. And can you imagine how he was feeling? When he went to God, he said, look, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of dealing with these people. He probably called them something else,
Absolutely.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired. They were griping, they were complaining. We shouldn't have left. They were complaining. They were mad. And I can only imagine the stuff, how he was feeling, having to hear that. He was trying to do good, but what they say, no good deed goes unpunished,
Unpunished. That's right.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? And trying to deal with that. Um, and God, in essence, just said, I got you. Cast your cares upon the Lord. And look what he did. He got him help, and took that, burden off of his shoulders. He didn't have to carry all that by himself. And God is true to his word. We just have to be true and faithful in doing what he says. We're supposed to give it to him. And Lord knows that's hitting home with me, because right now I'm like, what, Lord, whatever. I don't know. It's like being in a tree, and you in a tree with a tiger, and the people don't want to shoot up in the tree because they're afraid they might shoot you. But you say,
Uh-huh.
what, Lord, somebody, I don't care who you hit, but somebody need to shoot in this tree.
Uh-huh.
I've been feeling
Uh-huh.
like that the last couple of days. It's like, I don't care who shoots and who gets shot, but somebody needs to shoot in the tree. One of us needs to be shot right now. One of us, you need to take one of us down.
Don't shoot me, Vanessa. I don't want to be
I
shot.
don't want to be shot either, but somebody needs to shoot in the tree.
But it's interesting because I think in this day and age where we like to focus on leading families. I mean, let bring it to what we're used to. Leading a family. We have not been taught enough, in my opinion, that is burdensome.
Of
It
course.
is too much of expectation that you know what you're doing and you don't get tired, and we don't really care if you get tired, and this what you're going to do, and go from there. So to see this in scripture, so I want to point out to people, this is not thee thou this is you tired, I'm tired, and I need you to do something about it. He said, okay, I'm gonna meet you in this place, bring about 70 people with you,
Yep.
and we're going to take care of this. So it shows that God is open to how we feel. It also shows there's an answer. It also shows that we get frustrated with people day to day, depending on whatever capacity we're in. And it's okay to do that and bring that to God. Your thoughts, Vanessa?
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to do it one way or the other. I mean, even if you don't believe, God is still, I think he still shows us grace in allowing you, to have that time to come to him, to get to know him. And from where I am, I have to do that. That's a must. That's a must to going to God and just casting your care. So, because we can't solve it. If we could solve it, we have a need. If we could solve it, you get to your wits end, get to the end of your rope, and what will you do? What can you do? Yes, you're gonna go to him.
Absolutely.
Yes, you're gonna go to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was talking to someone this week and she's dealing with a heavy load. And she said to me, I said, "Did you pray about it?" And she was like, "Not really." And it was mostly from feeling like, "Well, I just have to deal with this." That concept, I just have to deal with this. And the reality is not. There's a scripture in the New Testament that says, God says, "Give me your burdens, give them to me." But you have to willingly hand that over.
Gotta
And we
handle
don't
it.
always do that really well.
Or it out.
So, at all, because we think, and it's not putting us down, but in our society, it's interpreted as you need to handle this, and we don't
Right.
really care.
Right.
So, here God is saying, I do care, and you don't need to handle this. So, this is Old Testament, Him saying this, give it to me. New Testament, He says, hand over the burden to me. So, we can conclude God wants the burden. Now, you have to do your part in turning it
Because he
over.
knows we can't handle it. And if we try to handle it, we just make an even bigger mess of it.
Absolutely.
So he knows.
Absolutely.
God
Absolutely. So
knows.
so the point is, hand your stuff over. God will gladly take care of it, and we go from there.
Hey, he can have it.
He can have all of mine. I'm
He
sorry.
can have it. I don't
I
want
don't
it,
want to
Lord.
hold none of it. You can have
I don't
all of it.
want it. I don't want
I
it.
I don't want it. Absolutely, absolutely. So that segues in our stories of what's, I'm sorry, and let me say it right, Vanessa, what's not going on in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's more like it. That would be a very short list if I said what
Yes,
wasn't going on in the world. But
absolutely.
unfortunately, I'm about to tell you of what is happening in the world, and it gets just crazier and crazier by the minute. It's been crazy ever since we've been gone, and it's still getting crazy. It hasn't let up. People need to just cast their cares over to God, and they're not listening to Lisa.
They're not listening. They're
So
not
just to
listening.
give you a recap to those of you who've just been on the moon and don't know what's happening here on Earth, um, Trump and 18 co-defendants were charged with racketeering in Georgia in relations to the 2020 election probe. And some of those people, besides Trump, were Mark Meadows, uh, just a whole list of people, a whole list of people. I won't even go through it. But he and several others were charged with racketeering. Well, Mark Meadows, I mentioned him because he was the one who was trying to have his case moved to federal court. And just yesterday, I believe it was, his motion to have it moved was denied. So it will remain currently, all cases will remain in state court. And see, in state court, um, if they are convicted, once tried and convicted, they will have to serve some time. Whereas if they moved it to federal, they might would have had a better chance of potentially having their cases thrown out. But your thoughts, Talisa?
So it's interesting that we want to do that. And many news reports have said, okay, because the others were kind of holding their breath, thinking if he's successful, then we can do that as well.
Right, right,
Keeping in mind that it's twofold. One, to get it out of Georgia. That was the goal, to get it out of Georgia, away
right,
from Fannie Willis and her people. The second thing is they felt like they would have a better chance at having a jury that may agree with them.
right. Because it's federal, and
Absolutely.
a lot of the judges Trump appointed.
Correct. So again, it's twofold. It's kind of, let's get it away from this and let's put it somewhere else. The other thing was, it's been reported that they wanted to keep delaying this court hearing. So
Correct.
if it gets to feds, then, depending on us getting the judge we want, it can get delayed and kind of go from there. So several reasons, but what was interesting in the report that was given was they said he didn't even meet the bare minimum
Right,
for the judge to consider
right.
doing this.
And
So go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
So the interesting piece is just the fact that, it's not meeting the threshold to even qualify to say. I thought it was really interesting, and this is my question to you, Vanessa. It was interesting that if you've been charged and in a country that is focused on states' rights, how are you now trying to move it from the state to fed? And it's not supposed to be coming
Because
together with each
we
other.
make the laws according to how we feel and what's happening with us. We never would imagine that we would have to fall under those same laws that we're making. And now I'm told that in Georgia, they're trying to now change some of those laws. But it's funny because every time they move the goalposts, something happens to where, okay,
Absolutely.
now we got to
Now,
move
now, if you
it
was a
further.
regular Joe Blow, Vanessa, and you wanted your case moved to federal, could you move it to federal?
I don't even know if you could even raise that
That's my
as an option.
point.
So it's like, no, because they never thought that this day would come, that they would be the ones on the opposite side of the law. And the racketeering charges that they are faced with, they carry anywhere from 5 to 20 years. So at a minimum, 5 years would need to be served. So,
But see, that's the scary part to me when you are associated with someone who may or may not, that's not my hope. My hope is justice comes, God brings justice, so that's what we do. But a person who may not serve any time, and you definitely would serve it. I'm confused why you would roll with somebody like that.
But think about it, all the things that have occurred with, the insurrection, all of that. If it were your average person, if I instigated it, I would have probably been locked up a long time ago and might would have had to sit and await my trial. I don't know if they would have allowed me to be out roaming around if I had said, go out and do what happened on January 6th, if I instigated it.
Absolutely. But
It's
that's what I'm saying. It to me, it's the running in between state and feds. So like you said, now everybody wants to change the rule, right? But at the time, the focus was always that state and that's fed, and one can't tell what the other is doing. But you're asking to take your case out of state and put it in fed. That just didn't even make sense to me.
Well, it does to them because they're the ones making the laws. So they feel like,
Yeah.
okay, I make the laws, I can change them daily as it pertains to me. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's just too
All the more reason for us to pay attention to who's running, and we'll talk about that eventually. But all the more reason to pay attention because someone should not be able to make changes to that, willy nilly.
it's a lot we need to be paying attention to. It just means go out and vote and pay attention to what's happening in your
Absolutely.
around you. And in addition to that, um, Fannie Willis, who's the DA, in this case, on Thursday, she had a scathing rebuke against House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan for his decision. He wanted to investigate the Georgia election interference probe that led to Trump's indictment and the other defendants. So, in a letter, uh, um, she accused him of overstepping his congressional authority with his recent request for information pertaining to her investigation. And she said, let's see, she said, your job description as a legislator does not include criminal law enforcement, nor does it include supervising a specific criminal trial because you believe that doing so will promote your partisan political objectives. Your letter makes clear that you lack a basic understanding of the law, its practice, and the ethical obligations of attorneys general and prosecutors specifically. So she was like, no, 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 not here. She was letting him know, no, I don't have it. I
Uh-uh.
don't care who you're
I need
friends
you to have a
with.
seat right here.
Exactly. Exactly. That's basically what she's telling them. I don't care who you're friends with. She also went on to say that while settled constitutional law permits her to ignore your unjustified and illegal intrusions into an open state criminal prosecution, she would reply to some parts of his original letter in addition to that. But she was like, no, dude, you got the wrong one here. I know what I'm doing. I don't care who you are. It doesn't permit or justify you looking into anything. And oh, by the way, your cohorts are the ones who came up with these laws. She's like, no, sir.
Absolutely. But
No,
this is
sir.
what happens when you stick with the rule, right? I remember, Vanessa, if you remember when Stacey Abrams was running,
Hmm.
and they were saying a law that she brought up, that you cannot do this, and how they got upset on the other side. So why is it when we bring the law that you created back, you get upset with it?
But because that's what I'm saying. They're upset because they didn't know we find the loopholes and they get upset. That's why they're upset because they can't find the loopholes. They don't see the loopholes when they're out trying to make life bad for people. They don't know there are always loopholes, and when they're found, then they're upset. Then that's why I say they move the goalpost. Now the goalpost will be moved again. Once this is done, they're going to move the goalpost yet again, and they don't understand. You know, God is in control here, so you can move it to the moon, and it'll still be a
Absolutely.
loophole,
But I want to ask a question. I'm curious as to how any of this affects, because they're still trying to pick juries
right?
for these cases. And they've been having some challenges with doing that, to my understanding. Do you feel like any of this is affecting how they're able to find jury pools? Do you feel like that has any hold on that?
Of course it is. I mean, with most high-powered cases, they always have issues depending on the case and how much in the public eye that it is. Of course, it's going to impact them having, an easy time getting jurors. They'll find jurors, but where they find them is a different story. But they will find jurors. I mean, O.J. Simpson's case was high profile.
That's true.
They've had high profile cases before. They've got one with the rapper that's there now. I can't. I don't know if they found jurors for that currently, but they high profile cases. They always run into that issue, and yet they do manage somehow to find jurors. So yeah, um, it won't be any different from previous high profile. But I want to add this. Did you see the mugshots?
Yes. 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 And I want to call to mind the young man who was locked up for a week,
Yes.
um, and did not have representation, and has reported that he cannot afford an attorney, but he has declared that he wants to run for Congress. I'm
Yeah.
confused. I'm
Yes.
confused.
Yes. I think he's since gotten out,
Yes. He
but
has gotten out at $100,000 bail. He does not live in the Atlanta area or Georgia area. My understanding is he is in the DC area. But nonetheless, again, this is what I mean getting caught up. When I was a child, my mother would always say, because you remember there were fights in school, and she said, now when they round up all these people, you're going to be caught rounded up with them. And if you get caught rounded up with them, now you got to deal with me. And I was
exactly.
thinking, well, wait a minute. I wasn't even doing nothing. I was just watching the fight. I didn't say nothing. I didn't do nothing. And she said, if you get caught up in this stuff, I'm coming after you. So I was just petrified of getting caught up. So I would watch from the rafters if I could, anything to avoid getting swooped up with the brother. But I
Hmm.
don't see this with any of the people that go with 45.
They
They
didn't
all feel like
obviously.
they're going to, get saved by the Savior. Is it me just saying that?
They obviously didn't have your mother for a parent.
Yeah, apparently.
Because they would know better, that
Yes.
that occurred. But I don't know. Some people have to bump their heads. Mama would say that sometimes. Sometimes you just got to bump your head, understand. Um, you saw the Proud Boys. One member of the Proud Boys. They said he was tearing up when he was sentenced recently. Um, Two of them. One was a member of the Proud Boys, and then the other was a member of.
No, they were both members.
Were both of them members?
They were both
Oh, one
members.
was just there
No,
during
one
that.
was the head of it, the other one was a member.
Okay, I thought one was just there during that time. But anyway, he one teared up and was begging the judge for mercy, but the judge, didn't wasn't having any of it and still sentenced him. And then, as he was being taken back, he still yelled out, "Trump won." So he went from crying to tearing up to Trump won, being defiant in the end, and the other guy as well. Um, it's like I don't know. I
It
don't.
is it's it they again, all of this is suspected. It's been reported that, you say what you have to say, but what was interesting about the leader of the Proud Boys, he said, please do not take my 40s away from me. He's 39.
Well, he.
Exactly. Exactly. So again, we're looking at, in my opinion, the catch up of people with. You see what I'm saying? We all want everybody to have justice, but if it comes down the way it comes down, you're locked up. Look at the young man who was locked up for a whole week. Nobody said anything to him. Nobody said, we're going to get you out. None of that. So why are people still lining up thinking they're going to be taken care of?
I don't understand. Those are things you should have thought of when you were there at the Capitol. Um, Even if you did, let's say you did go, with good intentions just to protest, and you never meant to breach the Capitol. Why stay when you saw what was happening? Why stick around? Why follow them inside the Capitol? Why participate if your true intentions were just to protest outside the Capitol? I mean, those are just questions I would have. I mean, if your true intentions were just to go march there and, protest, which, you know, they probably would, things would have been fine had they just protested. But
Mm-hmm.
they decided to breach the Capitol. So why participate? Why participate in that if you didn't want your 40s taken away from you or the end
Absolutely.
of your 30s
But
taken
the
away?
thing was, to report correctly, he was not even on site. He was
Well,
off
he
site
wasn't.
in
He
Baltimore.
wasn't. He
Yeah.
wasn't. He was
Mm-hmm.
online
Mm-hmm.
during this time, and they got him because he was part of the instigation. I think he told them not to move or not to leave or something online, and that was part of the reason why you know, he got what he got.
It's just a scary thing, and that's why I said you go back to your childhood and remember certain things that your parents said. And when she said that, I was just like, "Why? I didn't do nothing," But it's the truth. You get caught up with whomever, and even if you didn't intend to be violent that day, your emotion catches on. Next thing you know, you off doing everything else with everybody else. And now, because I think they have arrested over 1,000 people and are still gathering people,
A few
and there are
minutes
different
inside the
people who
Capitol,
reported I got caught up.
a few minutes inside the Capitol is going to cost them some time now.
And
Gonna
not
cost-
only that, even if you didn't get time, Vanessa, it's a felony.
Of course it is.
So if it's a felony, you can't get hired at a typical job because you have a felony.
But why wouldn't you do time though if it's a felony?
No, I agree. Some people do time. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying even if we're beyond that and you got off, there's a felony now on your record which prevents getting hired.
Because in some states, and I know we got to move on, but in some states you can't even vote because you're a felon.
That's right.
So how can you run for how can you run for office?
I don't know, but
How can
again, this young man, it's his prerogative too, because he can do. But I'm trying to put it together. You just got arrested for
I got
this, and
that.
now you trying to, okay,
Exactly. But I'm
and
just saying
you gonna run for office in another state. I
that's what
mean,
I'm saying. So but how can you run period if you can't vote in some states? They don't even want you to have the voting privilege. If you have a felony. But if you win the presidency, you can run the presidency from behind bars.
absolutely, absolutely. So I want to run a legal note. This is the first time we run in legal notes because we got a lot of crazy people. Each and every
Absolutely.
individual that we have mentioned has denied that they have committed these crimes and are currently in court fighting for their rights. So
Absolutely.
we want to put that note out there and go from there. So we are talking segue pretty much. We've already been in the political arena, but we're talking now because a lot of people are saying that we have some old politicians and it's time for them to retire out.
I like how you
Down
said that.
to the White House.
I like how you said that. A lot of people are saying, I mean, we see it on TV, they're old.
Absolutely.
That's not alleged,
Absolutely.
they're old.
They're aging out. Okay. So what it brings to mind is that now with the presidency, we do have it where you cannot do more than 2 terms. But I want to point out that FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, served 3 terms. So that's how the 2 term rule came in because it was pretty like a monopoly, right? And he ended up dying on his way out of the White House.
I think they should have those same terms. There should definitely be term limits on senators. Excuse me. There should definitely be, term limits on all of the legislators. Because if I go to my job and I can't perform, well, first of all, a lot of the jobs are getting rid of, people who've been there for 30, 40 years. A lot of the jobs, for some reason, they want to, well, for some reason, they they are letting a lot of the experience walk out the door because they want fresher minds, and they feel, I guess, I don't know what their thought process is, but I know with one particular company, the thought process is the younger minds, they're in tune to the current technology, the new technology. The older people there aren't so quick or willing to grasp the new technology and the change. So they're letting a lot of the experience walk out the door in 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 exchange for a younger mindset. So a lot of companies are doing that. They're not allowing you time to just sit there and get old. Gone are the days when you can stay at companies, 40, 50 years like our parents did. They started a job and they stayed forever. They never left in some instances. But I really believe, I feel that term limits, two, no more than two, because then we wouldn't have some of the issues we have today too if they had term limits. You've got people in there wanting to play God and not wanting to cooperate, or reach across the aisle. We're kind of stuck because there are no term limits.
So I want to look at the other side of the argument. The reality is, when you have older people in office, I'm not vying for this, I'm just having this
Hmm.
discussion. Older people have wisdom, right? Younger people,
Some, not all.
no, right, right. But typically, you've got more life experience. There's some wisdom there, right?
Okay.
Are we chucking the wisdom for having someone that moves faster and does whatever? Again, just my side of the argument.
I think, I mean, you could make that same argument with the presidency. That's wisdom walking with the presidency, and we get someone in who picks up and can run the ball as well. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, they still pick it up and run with it. In most cases, except for this most recent one. But anyway, I digress. Um, but as far as the senators, as far as our legislation area, I don't see a problem with that. I
Okay.
think I think I think a lot of them get there, and they do feel like, I think the power goes through their head in a lot of ways, because when you know there's something wrong, and clearly there's something wrong with the several of our aging senators. There's something there, and they know it. But when you refuse to step down to allow someone who could better perform the job to take over, there's a problem. There's a problem. I don't know if if you're just that hungry for the power. I don't know if you're just that stubborn. I don't know what it is. I don't mind in that instant that the wisdom goes out the door. I don't mind the senators having two-term limits, no matter how much wisdom they have. I don't mind that. I think
Okay.
term limits should be on that.
Okay. The senators, legislators tend to hold on to that power. They hold it too long.
Absolutely.
And to your point, I can agree with that, because the problem is, and I'm going to give you a legislator for an example who is actually running for office, who is older, okay, and they tend to get used to, and they're what's the word I want to they are professional, because they used to call students that are in school forever professional students. So I'll
Hmm.
use that term now. Professional legislators that are just in there their whole time, just trying to keep making money and hoarding all of this. The problem with that is you don't get new ideas. And the new ideas come from people who are younger, who are out there on the street with their ear to the ground, hearing different things. You're running things the same way. So it has been reported that State Representative, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi has decided to run again.
Hmm.
She is in her 80s. She has had an outstanding,
Right.
stellar career.
Right.
Okay. Now, in that argument, would you say Nancy Pelosi needs to take a seat?
I do. I still
Okay.
would say that.
Okay.
And
Tell me why.
and why can't she consult? I mean,
That's a
she
great point.
I mean, I agree with you. She has had an impeccable career. She's great at what she does. She knows her stuff. Why can't she consult? Because if it's Democrat, if a Democrat, well, whoever gets her seat, why can't she be a consultant? Why must she actually run in that seat? Because a lot of times you get set in your ways. I want what I want. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to stop until I get X done. So you're holding us hostage because you want to do what you've got an agenda. You came
Right.
in with an agenda, not her, but some senators. You've got an agenda, and you're going to see your agenda out. Where we're being held hostage in the meantime. But at that end of that second term, we get a reprieve, and hopefully someone else can come in who will be better, who will be there to better serve the people. I Yes, she's got a wealth of wisdom, but consult. You don't
That makes
necessarily
sense.
have to be in that position.
That makes sense. Because she, at the time, giving up her speakership, she gave up her speakership because there was some ruffling
Right,
in the group that was
right,
like, okay, you need to give this up.
right,
And she gave it up to Representative Hakeem Jeffries, who is currently the head of the Democratic Party in the House.
right, right.
So she did that. So it's a good point. I like the point of consulting instead of her running again.
And I
So
love
that
Nancy. I love
okay,
Nancy. I
okay,
love her, and she's great. She's excellent at what she does. But consult.
makes sense. Makes sense. So we want to bring up some people that could be those next leaders, those people who are running up the ladder and kind of getting our attention. The first one that I want to bring to mind is State Representative Gloria Johnson. She is
Hmm.
actually running for Marsha Blackburn's position as a senator.
Hmm.
She is a state representative in the state of Tennessee. For those that do not know whom she is one of what they call the Tennessee Three. And that wins when they put out two members of state representatives in the House in Tennessee a couple of months
Right.
ago.
Hmm.
There were three of them. It was Gloria Johnson and two other men.
Hmm.
Gloria Johnson did not get put out. She
Right.
stayed in by the skin of her teeth, and the other two members were brought back in. She is running for Senator Marsha Blackburn's Senate position.
Hmm.
And her platforms that she's running on, the main one that stands out is gun reform. She was a teacher, a former teacher at the school that the students were shot in Tennessee.
Hmm.
She used to teach at that school. So she says that she doesn't feel like the current senator is hearing any of the concerns that are going on in the community. And she said when we came back into session, as much as the protests, because remember they had protests there, and they had all sorts of things going on saying we have to do something. And when they reconvened in the state capitol, nothing was done.
Mm.
So her argument is that the current senator is receiving funds from NRA and that nothing is being done. And that's what the main thing she's running on. She's also running on increasing young people in voting. Your thoughts, Vanessa?
No, she does sound like a decent candidate. I say go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. I mean, I whatever we have now, who would you say she replaced? Who did you say you would think she replaced?
Senator, she's replaced, she wants to vie for the seat for Senator Marsha Blackburn's position
Oh,
as a
okay.
senator, United States Senator.
Oh, okay. I mean, I say go for it. Go for it because how else are we going to make change if the people who are causing some of the issues never leave? We got to wait for you to die. I mean, think about it. Must you die in office? We have to wait for you to die before, you know, something happens. There was uh, RBG.
Yeah.
There were a few people who had an issue with her staying as long as she did, and they wanted her, to resign so that President Obama could put someone else in her seat. And it just makes you wonder: do we stay too long?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think at the time when she started to get ill before she passed, it was too crazy of a time, and we was like, okay, please, everybody was praying if she was living that she wouldn't die off,
She
and
was
it was
doing
just funny.
something
It was just like, really,
like
we're like this, but that's what it was at the time, and she actually died.
she actually
So the
passed away.
positions, there are various positions that you don't retire out of, and that is Supreme Court and federal judges.
But they could step down.
They can, but I'm saying they don't get put out is the
No,
point that
no,
I'm
no.
making. So
Evidently,
it's just to pay attention to those positions.
evidently, senators, don't either. Evidently, um,
No, 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 no. They have to get voted out.
like I said, that's not happening either. It's not happening.
Vanessa trying to be controversial.
It's not happening. It's not happening. I I don't wish anything ill on anyone. I mean, if you're ill, you know, of course we don't want that. We're not wishing that on anybody. But if you're incapable of doing your job, there are a few senators who really, in all seriousness, they really should step aside and let someone who's better capable at performing um, the job. If you're there, if you're in a meeting and you don't know why you're there, but you're on platform to participate and you don't know why, and you don't even know where you are, that's a problem. It's just a
Yeah,
problem on my part. I mean, you know, if there's an illness, take care of yourself. Take care of your illness. Step down. Be with your family. Let someone else who's better capable handle it. I mean, there are people out there. The world's going to continue whether you're in it or not. Little as whether you are aware of that or not, it is. You can stay, but you're just prolonging it because as soon as you're gone, they're going to replace you anyway. So why not step down so you can enjoy whatever time you may have with your family and in peace?
absolutely. But I think sometimes the struggle is of what else will I do? I've done this for a long period of time, and I'm used to kind of doing that, and they like to kind of. I see your point, but at the same time, I'm just saying the struggle with making changes, is an issue, and sometimes I also feel like when it comes to the voter, we're not educated enough on whom is new, which is why we're talking about new people now so that people can understand. Specifically in even in local government.
Right.
Local government is now the place that we have to pay our attention. A lot of times, unless it's the presidency, we're not paying as much attention as we should. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, of course we're not. That's why a lot of laws have taken place, have gone into place without us being aware of certain things. Like at this last election, I was not aware of a couple of the maps that had been redrawn, and I participate in elections, but that escaped me and went over my head. Even out here in my own area, I wasn't aware that a couple of areas had been redrawn. And a couple of the ladies who I both like, and I voted for them separately in the previous election, you now had to make a decision between the two. So we need to just pay more attention to what's going on in our communities, what's happening in our government, and make sure that we're getting out to vote. I also wanted to just share this with you. They were, as far as Mitch McConnell, um, for those of you who may not have seen it, he froze for the second time during a press conference. And the, the, the White House doctor, I believe, just chalked it up to being dehydrated. But the doctor has since received pushback from a couple of the senators saying that um, was not a symptom of dehydration. But in any case, some of the names that they mentioned who would be in line to replace Mitch McConnell if he should step down, the top three in the running, they're all named John. Um, the first is John Thune of South Dakota, Thune, John Thune. Um,
Okay, you scared me. I was about to say, what was that? What was that last name again? I'm sorry. I'm about to
Thune,
say, Vanessa, don't make me put you out the show. I will put you out the show if you said the wrong thing. Okay, but go ahead.
John Thune of South Dakota, and he is
Okay,
62
Thune.
years old.
Okay,
Yes, and
how old is he?
he's 62. That's what I'm trying.
62.
Yes. Now
Okay.
listen to these. He's 62. He's the current number two Senate Republican known as the Whip. Um, and then the second one is John Cornyn, Cornyn of Texas. He's 71. And he is the former number two Republican in the Senate and a top lieutenant and advisor to Mr. McConnell. And then the third one is John Barrasso of Wyoming, and he's 71. So you've got 62, 62, 71, and 71. So
Isn't
that's
that ironic? You don't see nobody like 40 years old,
no
nothing.
one. Now you've
Okay.
got a couple of dark horses here, who is Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa and Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia. Um, Senator Ernst is 53, and she is a military combat veteran who serves as the number four leader as chair of the Republican Policy Committee. And then Ms. Capito is 69, and she hails from a storied West Virginia political family and is vice chair of the Senate Republican Conference. So um, I guess you could say that's a little bit of youth that
Yeah.
if they were successful in obtaining his seat.
But
But
currently, right now in the Senate, the Democrats are in control. So he would come if it turned and it went to Republicans, then it would go back to Mitch McConnell's side, and like you mentioned, the three that it sounds like are rising, trying to get there. But like you said, they're 60 plus, 70 plus.
they'll have age on them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So another rising person is Representative Katie Porter. She is out of California. She is a single mom, divorced mom. She is a Spitfire. She is running for Dianne Feinstein's position as a senator. There are quite a few people that are running for that position. Adam Schiff is running for that position, and there's another young lady who's running as well. But Katie Porter has been known because she's a Spitfire and she speaks stuff and she kind of comes at you, whatever. I like her because she speaks her mind about what's going on. Just recently learned something today that she was part of the group that was there to help what's going on right now with Big Pharma
Oh,
and the president.
uh-huh.
Yes, because they have a listing of drugs that insulin was first, of trying to get the price of insulin to go down for Medicare patients.
Uh-huh.
And now they have a listing of 10 other drugs that they're trying to negotiate the price down. That is Katie's platform. And she had many articles written about making Big Pharma squirm. So it was really interesting to read her story. But she's a single mom with two young kids that are under the age of 18. She's a Spitfire, and she's there. She challenges banks regarding the fees that they're charging people. Big oil companies, things of that nature, goes after. But what I liked about her, to your point, Vanessa, is she's got some youth to her. So
Yes.
she's got some experience, and she is kind of the protege for the senator out in California. And it's interesting because they're all in the San Francisco area. Nancy Pelosi is out of San Francisco. She represents San Francisco. Katie Porter is out of Orange County, which she flipped the seat from Republican, which normally Orange County has always been primarily Republican, and they flipped it to Katie Porter. So it's interesting to be able to watch that now, to bring this conversation to the presidency, the highest office in the country. Here we are now having this dilemma of a president who is in his late 70s. He'll be 80 when he runs. Is that right, Vanessa? I think he'll be close to 80, if
The
not
current, the
over.
current president.
The current president, he's
Yeah.
in his
So
late
he's 70.
70s.
He's 77 now.
Okay, so that would put him at 81.
Keep talking. Let me make sure.
Okay, that would put him at 81. But the conversation has been more about his age versus what he has done. Is that a fair discussion, Vanessa, or what do you think should happen here?
He's 80.
He's 80.
I
Okay,
think
so
Trump
if
is
he runs
70.
in 2024, he's going to be 81, which means by the time he comes out, he'd be 85.
Trump is 77 and Joe Biden is 80.
Is 80. Okay. Is the discussion fair to have it over his age or what he has done?
Um, that's a good question. I think both, actually. Um, so I think the discussion should be had on both, actually, because they're both important. He's 80 now. We elect next year, right? 24.
24, which means,
So
and he comes into office in 25. January 25 is when the office begins.
you're not helping
I'm
him.
sorry. I'm trying to tell the truth. I'm trying to tell the truth here.
So
I'm
that's
trying to
two
tell the
more
truth.
years. Well,
Yes.
a year, and I don't know when his birthday is. So I don't know when he turns. So he'll be 81 when he wins again. And I'm gonna put it out there. When he wins again, he will be 81, at least 81, um, going on 82. And um, is he okay? So the most that has occurred to him that I have seen is falling. He's fallen a few times, but he still appears capable of, being able to do the job. Um, that's a tough one, to Lisa, because
Okay. So can I chime in on this?
I'm looking. Wait a minute. I'm looking at the options we have, and
I
that's
know,
a
but
tough
I
one.
want I want to chime in on this. The question I asked, I didn't ask was he too old because we're clear
I
on that.
know, I
He's
know,
old.
I know.
Is he should he be judged on his age or what he has done?
Both. Again, I say
Which one
both.
more than the other?
On what he has done, his platform, what he's done, what he's
What
given
he has done. Okay,
this.
so here's my argument on the table. What he has done has been outstanding.
Correct.
Okay. Now, when 45 was running back for office in 2020, the statements were Joe Biden's in his basement, not doing anything.
Right.
So they were running the age thing back then,
Right.
right?
They were
Now,
running a lot of
since the
stuff.
man has come in office, he has done an outstanding job. And that's because, in my opinion, his years of being a senator,
Right. The
right?
experience.
So he knows how to govern. He's the most experienced, right? But the argument currently right now is he too old? I personally do not feel like it's a fair argument because if you're going to judge somebody according to what they've done, you can't take that from them. Is he too old? Yes. I will say that yes, it's an issue for me about his age. However, anybody that sits in that chair never runs the country by themselves. There are three branches of government,
Correct.
okay? And if you're going to give me the choices that it believes it looks like it's heading towards of 45 and Joe Biden, I am caught and I have to be able to say and go by what
Of
he's done.
course.
Now, if he had, women, hold on, if he had fudged, then there'd be an argument on the table, but he has not fudged. So that's why I'm saying, why are we having this discussion?
Even if he fudged, it still wouldn't be an argument on my part, because I'm considering the possible alternative to him. No, um, fudge or not, there's no alternative in my book, considering who he might be running against. Now, you can look at this two ways. Okay, with our current situation with the presidency, I would make um, I would have some leniency there as far as his age, considering where we are as a country right now, where we have the potential to go, considering who will be running against him. And let's just face it, and I'll put it out that I'll say it. If someone other than Joe Biden wins, then I don't think it'll be good for the country. And I think anybody in their right mind, will feel the same way, that, they really wanting to be honest. But anyway, I digress. So with Joe Biden, you have to look at what he's done. Yes, that would be first and foremost. Second, the age, he will be 80, at least 81 when he gets into office. And 4 years, that's 85, five short of 90.
Right.
So
I agree with that. And not only are we watching this, remember the rest of the world is like on
Absolutely.
pins and needles.
Absolutely.
Pins and needles.
absolutely.
But
And
this is the reason I have the argument is because the other side, this is their argument, and they were doing this back in 2020. Oh, he in the basement, he ain't doing nothing, this,
Right.
that, and the third.
Trump is 77. So what's their
Thank you.
argument? So,
And
so
he eating cheeseburgers.
what's exactly and lying about his height and weight. You 215 at 6'3". I just saw a 6'3", 6'4", 215, and he ain't look nothing like he ain't look
No,
nothing.
but that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, and as we come to a close, sometimes you have to pay attention to the darts that are thrown out. And I think sometimes we're a little gullible to the darts that are thrown out versus sticking to what has this person done. It's not a point that it's not mute, but the point that I'm saying is it tends to grow and take the conversation versus you have to give him credit for what he has done for this country.
Absolutely. I mean, even with Nancy Pelosi, she's older. Yes, she's done a lot, and I give her that credit, but she should still step down and consult with
And I agree. I think you came up with a great solution.
President Biden. That's a whole different argument because considering where we are, again, I'm looking at the bigger picture in that aspect, where we are, and who he may be running against. Let him run. Let him run.
Absolutely. Well, and that brings to a point, and we'll discuss this next time we come on the air. On the Democratic side, I have a really, really big problem with this person's turn. There's no such thing as a turn. Well, it's his turn. So, because if you notice, no one else is running.
Right.
I have a problem with that.
Well,
I have
yeah.
a problem. It's not a point of terms. It's a point of if I feel like I can help this country move forward. And that's
Exactly.
what you do. This is not double dutch and you don't get a chance to jump in and that's the end of that. But a lot of this conversation is coming from the fact that no one is running against Joe Biden.
Yep.
So, as much as he's done, I appreciate what he's done. I think he's done an outstanding job considering what was handed to him. But at the same time, the Democrats need to get that together. There is no such thing as a turn.
Yeah, not just the Dems, but Republicans also. It's the same way on both sides.
Well, they got people running.
Well, but he's not in office.
That's true, but I'm just saying they got people running. So I'm
He
just
would too if Biden wasn't in office. If a Republican was currently in office, we'd have several people running. We'd be having
Absolutely.
debates as well. Or Democrats,
Absolutely.
shall I say.
But as you can see, your voice is necessary in this subject. It's not just
Absolutely.
Vanessa and myself. It's
Absolutely.
your voice. It's understanding what goes on. Talk to your children about voting. Talk to family. A lot of the arguments that we've had, in politics have actually caused breaches in our family. We need to be talking more about different things because this is our country and we have to be able to have a voice in it. Not someone else have the voice, but you have a voice. So vote, vote, vote. Okay? Make sure you vote.
Absolutely.
And we will be having another discussion in a couple weeks. Miss
Absolutely.
Patina will be sliding back on in here. The bishop will be back from meeting with Jesus.
We'll be back one whole family.
Absolutely. And we want to see you back. We are not whole without you. So make sure you join us back in 2
Absolutely.
weeks on a Saturday at 2:00 in the afternoon, and we will be bringing the conversation. It's been a joy, Vanessa.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Enjoyed you. Y'all have a good weekend, and we will see you back
Bye.
in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Get ready for Sonia, Teresa, Vanessa, Bettina. Come on. Say what? Come on. Say what? We got Pam. Hot topics. We got what the